you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob? I mean, some of you might be like,
continual.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. We're good?
Yes.
We're in the frame? We're good?
Yep, I think so, right? And we both have blue on, so
I know, look at us.
it's kind of like we're on a team.
I think we are. We're on a
I think we
spiritual-
are. We are for sure, and we can talk about that. I do want to really talk about that first meeting, that first encounter, because I think that was interesting.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
I'd be curious of your perspective, too.
All right.
So.
Let's do this. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing podcast. I have a good friend, Mr. Scott Brennan, with me.
Yes.
I said it right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you did.
I
You
had to
nailed
make
it.
the 5 of a
You nailed
row.
on the first try.
I
Yes.
should have just kept
Yes.
quiet. But this is kind of a fun little story on how we met and how you will find your soul tribe when you're meant to. Because I didn't even know you several months ago.
Correct.
And now it feels like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you found your people.
And there was a little bit of a chase,
There was.
right?
Yeah.
There was kind of a pursuit where I had saw some of your stuff online and sent you messages, and then we kind of was like, yeah. And then meet, nope, can't, meet, nope, can't,
Like, is
right?
this guy a creeper
Right.
or?
No, I'm not a creeper.
He's not
Do I
a
look like a creeper? Yeah.
He's not
no.
a creeper.
No. I just saw some of your stuff and saw the energy, and it was one of those things where you look at people, you see their eyes, and then all of a sudden there's something where you're like, I have to talk to that person. I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah.
And so that was the feeling that I had, which is why I reached out to you and was like, I have to, there's something that's going on. I need to hear her story, or I need to share mine with her, or vice versa, that type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think I probably was honestly like, I don't know if it's with this new moon, but I had some creepers reach out recently of just like, no, don't message me like that. And that wasn't anything what you had
Oh,
sent.
no.
So I was just
I can only imagine the connections that you get and having to sift through. And I think there's a different contract between the way men contact women and women when they reach out. When I see it, I don't think, oh gosh, this is a stalker that's going to come to my house. But I think you guys have to deal with a little bit. The rules are different. So that's fine. I understand.
Yeah. But I did not get that vibe from you. And what you were sending was genuine, and I could connect with that. And my intuition was like, no, this guy checks out. And you're right. There was something like, there's something similar going on here. And so, yes, we did finally meet up for coffee after several attempts.
And there was a little bit of a snafu there because I was confused what was Middleton and what was Madison. And so you went to a coffee shop that I thought was the same place that I was at. Yeah. And then it was like, where are you? I can't find you. Right. And so then it ended up that we were at two different coffee shops that were very close with the same name.
I think I got to the third one. Third time was
a third?
It was
okay,
three.
Great. Yeah.
Three.
And here the whole time I thought this was really straightforward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, I'm at this one. I'm like, that is the same one. But anyway.
Yeah. And so I think what was interesting is when you first came into the room and we had engaged each other, I think I saw like that physical energy and that connection right away when you walked in. And I don't know if that was the same perception that you had. It was kind of like, oh gosh, this is why we're having a conversation, right?
Yeah, it's
and
almost like
easy.
that soul recognition, like, hey, I know you.
Yeah. And we had never met before. And I think we talked really quick and kind of started talking about really just like the empath stuff, I think is really which I'm interested in talking about that too. Yeah. Running into empaths in the wild it's pretty difficult, right? Right. And so I think that was what was really cool about it. Not knowing that that's what was the energy that I was feeling. Right. But just out of the curiosity of that. And I think as we got to talk quickly, we understood that there was like this, right?
Yeah. It was very quick. Like, oh, this is why we're meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how long your path has been as far as understanding that whole empath side. And maybe you can share a little bit of that. And then I'll share some of mine of when I figured it out and how I figured it out. And it's be interesting to see if that's similar or not.
Yeah. That's good stuff. So the reason I wanted to have him on, one is there's not a lot of men who are openly talking about this. Like I said, for someone to message that way and to be a male, like, I don't want to talk about that stuff, or I don't want to come off weird. There's all these stereotypes and connotations and all these things around it. And so I think just knowing more about you, even since that initial meeting, was like, you're kind of like this breath of fresh air of like getting people to actually open up and talk about it. And you're creating these safe spaces for men and women to actually start the conversation. Like, whoa, there's a lot more people that are empaths than I realized. There are a lot more people that understand energy, and just because you are being who you are. It's really cool.
Yeah. It is interesting because I don't encounter men who can, especially that are, maybe they don't know. I think maybe it's just the journey of understanding and the curiosity. And I think that's where I've had a stronger connection friend-wise with women, because it's easier to talk. And then I think they can recognize that I'm available and that they can also have that conversation. And it happens quickly. Whereas with my friends that are men, it could take a year before they would actually say something to me, even though I've shared my story. I've had times when I've had friends who have texted me and just that I've been friends with for 10 years that say, hey, can I just have a conversation? I'm at the bar. And I expect we're going to talk about sports or the job they have. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck.
Ooh.
And I need your help. And I'm going, oh, interesting. Now we're having a real conversation, right?
I'm here for
and
that.
So, I don't know if it's just a recognition or the fact that, I mean, quite honestly, it's really hard to be vulnerable as a man. And that whole, we talk about the gender roles and everything. And when am I supposed to be strong Scott and when am I supposed to be soft Scott? And there's no book to that. So I've just chosen to be myself and go, you know what? Hey, if you don't like that, then that's okay. We're cool with that. I think really, and we can talk about it later when it comes into intimate relationships and partners and stuff, that's when it gets really, really hard. Talking at it as a friend, it's really easy, right? But when we have to sit and talk about things that are real about you and I, and as we're moving down the road in a relationship, then it gets really messy, right? Because then that's when the gender roles come in and it's like, oh, wait, I love the vulnerability of this person, but then all of a sudden now I got to be vulnerable. And I just want them to stand up and lead me, and you don't know what that role is until someone specifically, I always say men want a manual and a manuscript. If you give them that as a friend and as a partner, they do really well. But if you don't give them that, and then if you bring in the vulnerable side, and then you're really confused, like, I really want to tell this person this because I love them, but I'm afraid if I tell them, they're going to think different of me.
Oh yeah, as a recovering people pleaser, it'd be great for me to write this. Here's exactly how. And actually, by setting those not expectations, that's not the right word, but almost kind of laying it out there from the very beginning can help reduce some of that people pleasing and like tiptoeing and eggshell walking around. It's like, oh, these are my triggers, these are my things, and rather than trying to cover that up and hide it, which we tend to do in relationship.
Well, and I think when you get in the relationship and you share all that stuff, it accelerates the relationship at extreme high velocity. And sometimes the love can happen really fast. And you move really quick. And it's like, oh my God, this is magical. And that person's like, so good. And they're like, oh my God. And it's this really strong surge and it gets a couple weeks into it. And then a subject comes up or something where the person who is not the empath and vulnerable and sharing has to have a conversation. And then they appear that maybe they're being judged, but you're really just giving them feedback and trying to help them. Because as empaths, we're people pleasers and we want to help people, right? So it's super hard to bite your tongue and not help that person when that person's struggling. And when that person struggles, you get that same emotion. So they don't understand that as they're struggling, you are struggling. So it's in my soul and I feel that pain and that sadness or that frustration when that person has that. So for me to take a step back and not be connected that way is probably where I have to grow, because I can't do that currently. I'm in it with them, right? It's the beauty of it. What they love about you ends up being the thing that makes them scared or makes them push you away a little bit. So I think that's hard.
Because it gets a little too real. You're seeing them a little too clearly. And sometimes your ego's like, I'm not ready for that.
And they're thinking 10 steps down the road when I'm just want to have a conversation about 2. You know, and then the people pleaser comes in and then you're trying to like help that person kind of step through it and explain it. And I don't know exactly how they feel because they generally can't communicate that back. Right. And then something happens and then what was an amazing magical adventure turns to trouble and sometimes just bailing. I think that's what comes in also about that self-sabotage you had talked about too. And being on that opposite side, and do they just say, I'm going to tank this and get the heck out because I'm getting scared and I'm feeling all these things.
So he's referring to my episode on his podcast because he has a podcast as well. So I will link that one because that was a really fun conversation. But
it was.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Who is Scott?
Who is Scott? Well,
and
gosh.
what do you do and all those things.
That's interesting because people ask me that now. I think I'm more confused to be able to explain to them what it is. Whereas before it was simple. I'm like, hey, I'm an IT director at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm a former Division I track and field athlete, and I coach high school athletics.
Boom.
The IT director thing last year just stepped away, decided that I had to move forward with other things, and that was taking away time from what I really wanted to do. So still running Badger Track Club, spinning on boards, coaching Monona Grove girls, high school cross country and track, and then trying to get out in the community and find all these people and figure out what's my next adventure and what that's going to look like. And so to answer that is Scott is this empathetic, loyal friend, and the rest of that stuff is all in works.
I love that answer.
It's still
though.
going. I think it's still going. Yeah. So my elevator pitch when I talk to business people is pretty poor right now, but as a friend and as a, I know you're going through similar transition. Yeah. Right. And one person said to me, just say you're an entrepreneur and leave it at that and say you run a couple businesses and you do some community outreach. And that's an easy way to introduce yourself to people that are business professionals or wondering what you do outside of Tami wondering who Scott is.
Yeah.
So
I know I used to dive into like inner child work and you just get these blank stares. I'm like, what?
Yeah. What is an inner child?
I'm a health and healing coach. How does that sound?
There you go. And they're like, I'm really healthy. What do you got to heal me from?
Let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
My gosh.
Yeah.
So starting with that, what was it that kind of opened you up? Because obviously you've probably always been empathetic, whether you realized it or not.
Yep. I would say as a kid, looking back on everything, it now makes sense that when I would struggle with being anxious or being what I thought was depressed, but I don't think was depressed. I just think I was catching everybody else's energy, and it was an emotional roller coaster that it was none of my stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Right. It wasn't my stuff. And still today, I still have that problem. So I think really like struggling with that and knowing that I was different, but I wasn't sure what was different and why I could make really strong connections with some people and others I just didn't even want to be around. Like people are like, you're judgmental. And I'm going, I'm not judgmental, but I'm just feeling this horrible energy from that person. Right. I don't want to be part of it. You can be friends with that person. You can grab that person in, but I just can't do it. Right. And then, so I think in 2017, after my divorce, I started doing yoga and I started doing the breath work and the movement and all that stuff. And that started releasing things and things started going and they started turning. Right. And then in the fall of 2019, and I had run my entire life. So let's see, I was at that point 42 years old, started running when I was 15, never even came in contact with a vehicle, never had anybody beep a horn, anything. And I was out running and I looked left, looked right, and forgot to look left again and ran into the road. And luckily the person who was driving the car at the last second swerved. So instead of hitting me and sending me over the car, it hit me and rolled me down the side of the car and just sat in the road. And at that moment, I just remember when the vehicle contacted me, I could hear the screech of the tires. I saw the window and it was coming out of my mouth. I'm dead, like as it hit me. Luckily, I am not dead.
He's not dead.
And
folks.
no major injuries. Yeah.
It's real.
Some, right. Exactly. Banged up a little bit, sat in the road, got up, picked up the mirror. It reminded me of something like, and it plays in my mind like a cinema. It's like a movie and I can close my eyes and picture it now and just walking. And it was like, there was no sound and all the cars were stopped. And the man who had hit me with his car got out and his face is just white. And I'm thinking, I was so embarrassed thinking I am going to possibly hurt this person's life because there's going to be police here. There's going to be insurance and all this is running through my mind like at full speed. And I just handed him the mirror and he grabbed it and I gave him a hug and I said, God bless you. And I ran home. Got home and then all of the energy of the whatever had been adrenaline had worn off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got hit by a car.
Yeah.
And so got up the next morning, couldn't move. My whole back was twisted. Took a couple weeks to recover. I told maybe only 4 people in my entire life up until 2 years ago that happened. Even my good friends and everything.
Why is that?
I was embarrassed, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I was embarrassed and I didn't know what to do. And then I was really struggling with, should I be dead? Like, why am I not dead? Thinking like logically run that over 1,000 times, 999 times. I take one more step, I go over the top of the car and I'm dead. Yeah. You know, the speed limit's whatever, 35, 40 miles an hour. So getting hit by a car going that fast is on a soft bodied human. It's impactful.
Yeah.
It's death or brain damage. Right. And so I struggled with that for probably 2 years where I just kept waking up every day and going, why am I alive? Why am I here? am I supposed to be here? And then if I'm supposed to be here, I kept looking at all the events that were happening and is this why I'm here? Is this why I'm here? Did I meet this person? Am I supposed to marry this person? Am I supposed to help this person? Do I help this person through cancer? And all those things that happened, I kept thinking, this is why I'm here. Awesome. And then I would settle in and go, I'm comfortable. And then either that relationship would end or I'd meet somebody else or I'd have another encounter. So I just felt like if I had to tell the story, that then I had to actually accept that it happened. And I kept trying to think in my brain, right? It was just too big for me to think about.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why I didn't tell anybody. And I remember walking in the house and my son came out and said, what happened? And I said, I fell in the road. I lied.
Goodness.
I lied. And it took me a couple of years to just finally tell him, hey, I just want to let you know that day I told you I fell in the road, I got hit by a car. I did not fall in the road. And he was a runner too. So
this is fascinating to me, doing obviously inner child work and talking about ego and all the ways the ego like creates these stories or leaves out the truth.
Yeah.
You know, for some form of protection. It's always for some form of protection. But that one's interesting. It was almost like, was it about being embarrassed or was it some sort of like soul protection of like, I need to be able to sit with this and figure this out? Or
I mean, there was no reason to lie.
Yeah.
There was no reason to not tell it. And I think I was still at that time transitioning to understanding that it was okay for me to tell my story. I was in that process. Like it was the beginning of Scott meeting with people and talking about, hey, my divorce leveled me. Hey, I got hit by a car and almost died. Hey, I had this happen. I had that happen. I had this fail. Then I started accepting it and saying, well, if I share this story with somebody and I tell them what happened to me, that will free them and give them the opportunity to have the conversation, which is what I found then opened all the doors to talking to people because they would see it as, hey, you know, I saw Scott as this. Wait, this is Scott?
Yeah.
And then people liked this Scott better than this Scott. Oh. And I was worried about the shiny Scott. And then when it got to the point where I just shared my story and people would just drop their jaw and look at me and say, what? Wait, what? Yeah. Then they started coming out and having conversations with me. Then it was safe for them to talk because it was like a doorway to say, hey, by the way, I messed up a lot in my life and I did this and I almost died and all these other things. Gave them the opportunity to just have a conversation with me.
That's so interesting. It's almost like kind of this more of accepting the death of this former self.
Scott 2.0.
Yeah. Like so in a way you did die, like a part of
that
you.
Part of me, the old Scott. And I would be curious if I took people who knew me, you know, in my 30s or 20s, and then all of a sudden met me now, would they go, hey, Scott, how's it going? And would they say, yeah, this is you? Or would they be like, oh my gosh, like you're a completely different person. You know, you've, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm happy about that, thinking that, but I often wonder the people who knew me before that, what they would think of me now, if they really had a chance to sit down and have a long conversation.
Right. It's almost like you are in this weird void of, if I accept this, then I have to accept the death of this old version of me.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way. Yeah. And it changed my life. It was a trigger to slow me down.
Yeah.
Which at that time, caused the relationship that I was in to stall. And I think that person recognized that.
Yeah.
And I had to slow down and say, I need to really take a look at why am I moving so fast? The reason I got hit by the car is because I was moving so fast. I had so many things going on. My brain was a mess. I just made a mistake that I ran thousands of miles in my life, never even had a car get close to hitting me. And this was 800 feet from my front door.
So people have heard me say a million times on this podcast of how things happen for you. And I truly believe that. And sometimes what is it going to take? Because how many whispers, how many warning signs, how many little clues did you get long before that?
Thousands.
Exactly.
Probably every day.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're going to create this accident. It's not going to kill you, but it better wake you up.
Right. Yeah. And I breezed by people all the time and never looked in crowds, never picked my head up. I was always in a hurry. Everything was fast. Everything was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get to there. I'm going to get to here. Part of the type A is I just have to look around the corner. And I was never present. And now I'm so present that I catch all everything. The things. Now I catch everything. And so then the struggle of when these things happen, did I just miss them, but they've always been happening?
Oh, yeah.
Or are they happening at an accelerated rate? And so that's where I'm trying to work through things now of like, why are these things happening? Or have they always been happening, but your eyes were closed?
Yeah.
And you were oblivious to it and you just breezed past it.
Well, and I've said that on here too before, like because I get lots of signs and synchronicities and those things as well, and messages that are like, whoa, undeniable. But I do feel like they're out there for everyone. But if we're on autopilot and we're going through the motions and we're not fully present,
Yeah.
missing them. But to think that, oh, well, it's nice that Tami gets guidance from the universe. Like, no,
Yeah.
we all do. We're just,
Yeah. It's
and
like,
I think once you notice them though, too, then they're like, oh, they're noticing.
Yeah,
Like, give them more, give them more. So
Mhm.
maybe there is a little bit of truth to both.
our friend Caroline explained,
Yeah.
it's like an antenna that's turned on.
Yes. Yes.
And so rather than the antenna's on, but maybe it's just at a lower frequency.
Yeah.
And then I think we all vibrate at a frequency where we're supposed to be connected. And as you turn that antenna on and you're more receptive to people,
Yeah.
they'll find you,
Mhm.
right? One of the things that I said on one of my video logs like a year, maybe it was like 6 or 8 months ago, I said, if you build the butterfly garden, the butterflies will find you.
Mhm.
I was always trying to catch the damn butterflies with the net.
Yeah.
And I'm running around trying to catch, I couldn't catch the damn butterflies. Until I realized I don't have to chase the butterflies will find me.
Yep.
And so that's when I took a step back and was like, all right, I'm going to build the garden. And the ones that are meant to come find me are going to find me. The ones that are going over there, I'm going to stop trying to catch them in my net
Yeah.
because they don't want to be caught by me.
Right.
They're
Well,
not interested.
and building that garden is literally just being who you are and being authentic in who you are
Yeah.
and shining that light and sharing those stories and talking about the things that light you up. And because if I wouldn't have been sharing what I was sharing online,
I would have never saw
You
you
would've-
and I
right.
wouldn't have followed it and I would have went, that's interesting. And then I'd see your post talking about this and I would see you posting things about your kids. And I watched that dynamic of going back and forth and I could see the pattern of you going probably through some of the things that I went through 8 years ago. And so then going through divorce and all that
Yeah.
separation and loss and all that stuff. And I saw the pattern and I was like, oh my gosh, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I think as an empath, I could feel that energy that you were displaying through the videos. I could feel it coming through and hitting me. And I'm like, I remember those feelings. I remember that emotion and I remember that sorrow and I remember that emotional roller coaster. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what she's talking about. Even if you're not using the same words that I used,
Right.
but it was the same pull of energy.
Yeah. And
too.
it's interesting how many people would reach out the more I was open about that, because that's the stuff people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you and I maybe we're just like these little, maybe it's like that little lighthouse. If we just shine the light, those ships will come and they'll find
Yeah.
you, or that moth to the
Yeah.
flame. But if we're too afraid to turn that light on,
Yeah.
no one's finding you.
Yeah. And I think the hard thing for me to really accept is there have been times when I've been really close with somebody and I really believe that they were my person. And as an empath, when you get stitched into someone's soul,
Oof.
you are stitched.
You are
And that
stitched.
person does not understand what that stitched means. And so you are on that damn ship as the ship is going down, holding on to the sail, right? And they don't understand that.
Right.
And then even when they leave, you're still stitched to them, right? And so transitioning from, did I meet that person to help them through X,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the only reason that I met that person, even if the relationship lasted 4 years, 3 years, 2 years. Or was that really my person, but we got sideways? And just trying to figure that out and let that go. And I think is really going to be a big growth thing for me probably in the next year, to be able to just let some of those things go.
Yeah.
Because I just have a tough time. And I think, again, that goes back to the empath.
Oh,
part of it.
yeah. for
Like
sure.
that energy is in your body and you just can't.
Mhm.
Right. And you can still feel that person when you're not with them and when they're at their house and the tethering and all that stuff, which is yep. And so I'd be curious, people that listen to this, like if this strikes a chord and they're like, oh my God, that happens to me, but I never understood what that meant. I just thought that I was sad or maybe just ruminating on things, but that energy is legit.
Yeah.
It's legit. And even when that person leaves you and they're thinking about you, you're still feeling that energy. It's like you can picture them in their house at their table and their sorrow. And you want to reach out and say, hey, but you know they're probably just going to not respond. And you're like, you have two choices. Just don't, or send the message and not expect to get anything back.
Right.
And hope that they actually read it.
Right. And maybe receive it, like actually receive it, but maybe not. Yeah, that's been a journey for sure, especially being in the work that I was doing with leading women through a health journey and feeling uber responsible for every aspect of it. And gosh,
Absolutely.
if they had a step back or if they regained weight, I took that on and I carried that around, and it was tough. Like, you can't want this more for people than they want it for themselves. And that was when I didn't know about inner child work then, or even being an empath. I didn't know about energy then. And then once I did, everything made sense. Like, oh, that's why I feel this way. And that's why.
So how did you get to when you identified that? Like, what was the event that, did somebody tell you? Did you read a book? Did you like?
Well, the whole empath thing started, again, just like random little signs and things I saw. I shared this on a very early episode. It might have been episode 2, actually, that there was a YouTube ad that came up. And normally I skip those immediately. And it said, "Are you an empath?" And I had no idea what that meant. And I
Wow.
was just, all of a sudden, I'm caught watching this, right? And thinking, how does this man, he is describing me to a T. And so I'm
Whoa.
locked into this YouTube ad. Oh my gosh, I absolutely
And
am an
you
empath.
hadn't searched anything or
No.
been
Nope.
reading
It
any?
was just a
Oh
random
my
ad that
gosh.
popped up while I was watching a different video.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I just caught myself watching it. Well, then there was an option to sign up for this workshop. So I was like, whatever, sure, I'll do it.
You did?
Well, I
Oh,
signed
wow.
up for it, but then I didn't do it. Like all of a sudden it started going into my junk email and I
Okay.
totally forgot about it. And then it was just, I don't even know, maybe months later, I was doing an email purge and I'm scrolling through stuff like, do I need that? Do I need that? And all of a sudden there was that email, like just like standing out where it's almost like it's got lights and like, oh,
Yeah, you couldn't delete
like
it.
why would I click on that one when it's mixed in with all the other junk?
Yeah.
But I did. And then pretty soon I signed up for this like interview or something. And next thing I know, I'm going out to Colorado. And so I have worthiness stuff, or I'm working through my worthiness stuff. And like normally I would have never spent money to go on a retreat and do this for myself. But it just so happened that I won through the supplement company that I use. I was one of their finalists. And the check that I earned was about the exact amount for this retreat. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
God,
now
that's
I know what
amazing.
I'm going to spend it on.
That
So,
is so
yeah.
awesome.
So I went out to Colorado, met my absolute soul sister, Zoe. And yeah, that was when I really learned about energy and was like, oh my gosh. And then I learned how to clear it, how to
Yeah, I
protect
gotta
it.
get.
And that as an empath, like you have, I'm teaching my kids, my son, I can tell. We were watching my friend's baby last week and she starts crying and all of a sudden he starts crying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, buddy. Yeah. And then we had my grandma's funeral and my niece was feeling a lot of it. And you're not feeling this just for you. I can tell. Like
Yeah.
she's just always been very emotional, and people can look at that and be like, gosh, like, why she's really having a hard time. We're like, no, she's feeling the energy of everybody in this church.
It's a wave. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and I will connect on that's, I think, something where that's a growth point of mine of when to turn things on and off and be able to block it. Mine was my second therapist that I was going to after my divorce, probably 3 years after. And it reminded me something just like out of Good Will Hunting. He was that character.
Oh.
And he would ask me those questions and he would just be sitting back. His name was Ben. And the one day he just had a piece of paper and he just wrote something. He's like, I want you to take this home and I want you to read about this and then come back and I want you to tell me what's going on. I was like, all right, great. I looked at it and said empath. And I was like, cool. So I went home, punched it in. And I was like, oh no.
Oh no. Yeah.
So I came back and he goes, what do you think? And I go, yeah. And he's like, I figured. And then that started the journey of understanding. Yep. Then we stepped back through my childhood and stepped back through college athletics and stepped through all the impactful moments in my life where I wanted to quit or I wanted to take a right when I needed to take a left. And that there was just something going on and I could never figure out what it was.
Yeah.
And then it all made sense.
Right.
And then at that point, once that happened, I started really stepping through, okay, what do I do with this?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And do I want this to be something that is to my advantage or do I want this to be something that I'm going to run from? And so that's when I just started really sharing my story and I really started talking and walking in the room with my shoulders back instead of hunched over and smiling. And then someone would smile at me and I would just go sit down and say, hi, I'm Scott. And then within like 2 or 3 questions talking about something, then I could identify immediately if that person was prepared to have a conversation with me about something real, not just about 10,000 foot view. And I'm sure this happens to you too. I will go into public spaces or I might go to a bar or I'll go somewhere and I'll sit at a bar and someone will now sit next to me.
Yep.
And then I can just feel right away that they're here to have a conversation with somebody. Yeah. Not saying they're here to talk to Scott. And I just turn and say, hi, my name is Scott. And they give their name. And then within 2 or 3 questions, and then all of a sudden it just goes. Yep. And you can feel that they're ready to talk. And most of them want to. Yeah. Like they're there for a reason. Yes. I can feel that vibration of I'm stuck. And I just want to say something. I want to say something. And then bam, they do. And then those are people that I encounter out in the wild where they'll yell from along, Scott, from a really far away. And I'm like, I don't know who it is. And then they come up, they're like, remember? And I'm like, yeah, I met you at whatever. And then it's like, we're best friends.
Yeah.
You know? And they're like, yeah, I was just gonna tell you, like, something happened last week. These are people I might not have seen for a couple months.
Yeah.
Remember when we were talking about, and you said that? I thought about that and I went home, and then it created a spark for them.
Yes.
And they're like, and then you talked about that book and I read that book and then it was really cool. And then I felt so good. And then their journey was starting, you know?
Yeah.
And so that excites me. That makes me feel good. And that's also why I coach too, and probably why you coach, and that impact that you can have with that person when the vulnerability of doing something really hard.
Yeah.
There's that moment where you can say something to them and they're like, oh, you've not only supported me, but you've given me a nugget.
Yeah.
And then you just hand them the nuggets.
Yep.
And then they hopefully will figure it out.
Yep.
Because it's not our journey as a coach, it's their journey.
Yep.
But we can give them something that allows them to take that step and have that confidence. And if they remember that conversation that you had, and then a year down the road, they're like, oh gosh, I remember what's good. You know, Coach Brennan said to me, he told me to, whatever. That's the gift of coaching.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Well, and it's a gift of truly seeing people and being able to read the energy and maybe what is it that they need in that moment.
Yeah.
And that is a gift.
Yeah.
But if you're not creating that safe space because you haven't created it within yourself, and I think that's part of it, is like you had to find that within yourself first.
Oh, for sure.
To be able to then hold space for people like that.
Yep.
But it's interesting. It truly is kind of that moth to the flame. They pick up on that vibration, that frequency that you're putting out. Like, hey, I'm the safe space. Come sit down and share your story with me. And I feel that too. And it's interesting, people who end up creating these really cool connections, but it's also like just who you are. But for some people, it's so rare. It's so rare. And I think that's where when you're building relationships, it can get misconstrued sometimes because it might feel so rare to that person that they confusing it as a connection, like a romantic connection or something like that. When really it's like, I'm just holding space for you. Like I'm seeing you and I'm hearing you and I'm a compassionate, empathetic person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look at it as like, you know, how cats approach you.
Yeah.
Like they're really suspicious and then they might just come sit on your lap.
Yeah.
And then the next time you see that cat, it might not come sit on your lap.
Yeah.
And so there's moments where the people who aren't ready don't appreciate it and understand it.
Yep.
And so they're connected to you because they love the fact that you're available and you're this really cool ride that's going to go along and they're not worried. But it comes to a point where it's their turn.
Yep.
And when it gets to the point where it's their turn, that's when things go sideways.
Yep.
Right? It's easy for me to sit and talk and us to have drinks and me to ask some questions and all these great things. And, you know, you get in these relationships where you're having fun. And then when the fun stops and all of a sudden it's like, wait, now I got to participate in this? That wasn't the deal. The deal was you were the empath. You were the open person. I'll talk to you about a couple things, but now you're asking me really hard questions. And I don't know how to answer those questions. And almost I'm wondering if you're being critical of me because you're asking me a question about something I don't feel comfortable with. And now you've identified the hole in me and I'm not so shiny. And now the self-sabotage starts creeping in. Yeah. And then as an empath, you want to help so bad. Right. And if they don't want you to help them, it's super hard to just sit there and hold it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had to get really good at the whole bless and release because, okay, so maybe I came into your life to wake you up or to show you these things or introduce you to your inner child or talk about ego but the second ego feels threatened, that wall comes up.
Yeah.
That mirror, all of a sudden, that reflection's a little too close. And that's when all of it starts to unravel. And you're right. Ego is comfortable up to a point, but we can only hide our true selves for so long. Mm-hmm. And that's, where sometimes that sabotage comes in, where it's like, well, let's sabotage this before we have to really get open and vulnerable and
it's easy,
show our true selves.
It's easier to cut and run.
Yeah.
And then and if they do cut and run and then they can't even hear from you, they can't see you, they can't respond to a text from you, and you can't teach that. You can't help that.
Right.
That's their own work that they have to do. That took me a really long time because I thought I'm the person that's doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I'm creating this situation that this person's uncomfortable with and they can no longer function in that. You know, they can't do this anymore. What does that mean? What are you saying you can't do? Right. And then that person just doesn't even know, you know, and it's sad because I think about like gosh darn it. And I'm a problem solver, having worked in IT and having an analytical brain, but also having this other side.
Yeah.
So it's the beauty of it where I can fully understand why they're doing it, but it's not a good excuse. Like, right, you can have bad things happen to you in your life,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But not changing it and not attempting to get better is not okay.
Yeah.
And especially if you have kids too, because your kids just watch you. They're sponges.
Right.
If they see that you're just going to create walls,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they're going to do. They're going to just be the same person as you.
Yeah.
They're just going to create those walls.
Right.
And they're going to think, oh, it's great. My father or mother is a really strong stoic person. When things get hard, they just kind of buckle down and move on down the road. And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about death. We don't talk about the end of relationships. We don't talk about when things are really hard. We just, hey, buckle it up and move forward, because there's no time to do that.
Right.
If you do that, you're going to lose out. You're going to fail. You're going to lose your job. You're going to not look as strong.
Yeah.
When the fact of the matter is, it's exactly opposite.
It's the exact opposite. Well, it's interesting. I think it was on episode 2 weeks ago, where I think I got to the very basement, the root of my father wound.
Oh,
and I had this really amazing conversation with my dad about where that's, because I have a great relationship with him now. And that's why it was like, this doesn't make sense, but I check all the boxes for father wounds. I was like, wait a second. And looking back at his story when I was in 1 through 5 was when he was going through his hardest time in his life. And exactly what you said, there wasn't time to feel your feelings. That wasn't encouraged back then. He had to provide for his family. So he was there physically, but I'm this little girl who wants to connect with her dad. And if he's working 2 jobs and then when he comes home, he's like, that felt like emotional abandonment and neglect to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's thinking about, okay, I don't want to repeat those patterns. And so when I'm going through a hard time, I can't shut down with my kids. I can let them in, be like, hey, I'm having a tough day, because I don't want them to create a story that it's about them like I did. Like, oh, my dad must not love me.
Right.
Maybe I got to try harder. I got to achieve more, whatever it is. I got to earn my dad's love, and then I got to make sure I keep it.
Yeah.
Whereas I want my kids to know, yeah, I'm having a heavy day. I'm having a hard day, but it has nothing to do with you. So they can detach from that story.
Well, and the interesting fact of that's probably affected your relationships with men. I remember
what the whole episode was about.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously, it was. It was like my ex-husband showed me that I had childhood wounds. Then someone else came into my life that ripped the Band-Aid off and like exposed them. And then this last relationship helped me actually heal them. But it was so clear. And when you talk about, was I meant to just come in this person's life for this and that? That absolutely happened to me. And I think about, have I done that for them too? Or other people in my life? Maybe I was just meant to come in, turn on the light, like, hey,
Yeah.
here's all this stuff you've been ignoring and haven't seen. Let's talk about your childhood wounds.
Well, and I think the romantic relationship thing is really hard, because as a friend, coming in and out of someone's life to help them is really easy. But when you get stitched in with that person, and then especially when it's multi-years and that person leaves, that's like, I remember on our podcast, you talked about being against PDA, like public displays of affection, and like you would pull your hand away and stuff like that.
I wasn't against it. My people pleaser was worried about making everyone else uncomfortable with the PDA. I wanted to. So inside you wanted to do it, but you were worried about being judged. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. Okay. Yeah. Well, that makes more sense. And I've encountered that where it was like, I feel like the person is really connected to me, but that physical touch in public, there was that barrier of I'm going, this doesn't make any sense. When we're around and we're at home and everything, it's like great. And then we get in public and that's all of a sudden something changes, like this.
Yep. Yeah.
All of a sudden
ego was on. Like, well, I don't want people to judge us or think like, oh, look at those two. Or it's
interesting.
It's that projection that we're taking in from everyone else of what we think people are thinking. I wanted to be an example of closeness and affection and what love can look like. Why are we all walking around like these cold ass people who don't have no, but it's so foreign because we're not doing that anymore. But most people, if you see an older couple walking around holding hands, aren't we like, oh,
yeah,
like somewhere deep inside,
where
we
did
all
that
want
get lost?
that.
What happened to us? What happened to our generation that
because someone made fun of you somewhere, and now ego's like, well, I'm not doing that again. I want to get made fun of.
Well, I think the other interesting part of it too is modeling in front of your kids. Like a lot of people go, I can't touch you in front of my kids, because then they'll think, and I'm going, what do you mean? Don't you want to teach your children that this is my person and this is normal, that I hug them or I kiss them, and even though they might think it's weird, or they're like, well, that's not my dad, why am I doing that? Or oh my gosh, like just teaching them that at a young age, because if they don't see that,
you want them to see healthy affection and connection.
But people are worried about that.
Yeah.
They're really worried about that. They're worried like their kid might say, oh, I mean, my son said he saw he saw you and I kissing and it made him uncomfortable. I'm like, why?
Right.
Ask that question rather than going, we
they've never
shouldn't
seen
do
it
that in
before.
front of them. Right. We shouldn't do that in front of them because it thinks X. And I'm going, well, you get to pick that. As a parent, you get to decide that path of what your kid's path is.
Right.
Right. And especially when you come from divorce and kids are going between households, right?
Yeah.
You control half of it.
Yep.
The other half, you just got to let go and not know what's happening. But you get to decide who your person is, how you act with that person, how you integrate that person into your life.
Yeah.
You can always hold them at bay and be like, oh, this is the +1 to our family. Or you can just say, hey, guess what? Scott's my new ex and he's going to be around and this is how I'm accepting him. And I would like it if you guys felt the same. Could you tell me what you think about that? Those are healthy discussions with kids.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be hiding things like that. We shouldn't be hiding our emotions when relationships end.
Right.
We should sit down and say, hey, so-and-so, talk to my son and say, we're not together anymore. And here are the reasons why. Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Would you like to have a conversation with that person? Do you feel like you need to talk to that person and tell them how you felt or have them say something back to you? Right?
Ooh. Yeah, that's good.
That's normal to me. I think about that and go,
to you.
I know,
What?
I know, but I'm just saying, like, how healthy would that be? Because those kids, when you get in a relationship with somebody, those kids, whether they come up and say, I love you, Scott, or not, they love you, right? And then you disappear.
Right. It's
They
going to
don't-
rip their abandonment wound right back.
They don't have the tools to actually understand why you're not there anymore.
Right.
They're not adults. So if you don't tell them exactly why and say, hey, if you want to talk to Scott or say hi to Scott, I will reach out to him. And even though the relationship is over, instead people just turn the faucet off. They're like, bam, boom, bam.
Not.
And kids, that's not good for kids.
No.
They don't want to lose somebody that they were connected to.
Right.
But that's how we function.
Yeah.
That's how we're currently doing that in society.
Yep.
And it makes me really sad.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, we're hopefully here to help normalize those
Correct.
things that we have demonized or that we have felt uncomfortable. You and I are coming in like, hey, guys.
Yeah, hey, look at this funny show. Hey, it's easy. We're both wearing blue. Look at this. We're happy. Ha ha.
Look at these psychics over here wearing the same color clothes we didn't even know.
Yeah, we got all the answers. We don't. Actually.
It's like we planned that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah,
we didn't even think about it.
I know.
Yeah, we just showed up in blue.
But it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up because I haven't shared this, but when my daughter had originally found out about that relationship, it was not the way I had intended to share that with her. But it was good that she found out when she did because she had felt like I had lied to her. And I was like, I haven't even had a chance to tell you. It was literally, I hung out with this person. She found out the next day. So it was good that she found out. But then we had talked like, what do you need in this? Do you need to not know anything about this part of my life? Do you want me to share things? And I think at the time she didn't really know, but she at that time was like, I don't want to know anything about it. So I was like,
that was her answer back.
Yeah.
Oh,
like, I don't want to know it. So I was like, okay. So I'm living two separate lives. I'm like with my kids and with my,
you can't mix them when you're with your kids. You didn't want to mix that person because of how she responded.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But then fast forward a few months later, then it got to a point I didn't realize this whole time. And I would check in with her, here and there. But let's say he had gotten me a gift or something and she'd be like, who gave you that? Right. I'm like, a friend. So I wasn't lying, but I'm like, you told me you didn't
told me,
want.
yeah, yeah. She
but
said,
then her ego started to create these stories that I was lying about these things. For example, I had gotten my son a new body wash. Her ego created this whole story that it was this person's body wash. I'm like, this person's never even stepped foot in this apartment or in this building, like, whoa. But that's where it's like, be able to have those conversations so we're not creating those stories.
Yeah. So what did you do in the end?
Well, what it was we realized that boundary she set was way too rigid and that she actually did need to be let in a little bit. She did need to know where those things are going. And so I would just ask before I would jump into something like, hey, we did this with so-and-so. Like, do you want to hear? Like, I would ask her in that moment and she'd be like, yeah, you can tell me. I'm like, okay.
And why do you think she didn't want to know? Was it because of protecting her father? Do you think?
I don't think it was that. I wonder, and this is like, I could have this conversation with her and I probably will at some point. I wonder if she felt like if I let this person in to our life, then that would be less time with her.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's normal.
And then she's like, I'm not sharing the time that I have with you. Yeah. So it's like, keep those things separate. And that way, when we're together, we're together. And like, I don't know. But that was when I was like,
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And I think if you ask her, that's going to be the answer. So then it goes back to the way you present this person as being additive rather than, thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to get a new person that's really fun. So when we're together, you have two people who care about you and two people that you can put energy into.
Right.
And then if that person is good, and I would imagine you would pick a good person, I'm hoping we're going to get, yeah. So then that person would be additive and they'd be like, oh my God, Bill is so cool. Every time he comes over, he asks me about my life. That was the thing was big for me being in relationships, is I wanted to ask those kids every day, how was your day?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they're like, I don't know, what the heck? No one asked me that. And I'm going, I'm interested. I want to know how your day was.
I genuinely want to know.
I want to sit down and have dinner and hear about what happened in class. I want to hear about your basketball game. I want to hear about the boy that you think is cute. I want to hear that stuff. I'm not your dad, but I genuinely love you enough that I want to hear that. And that goes back to like unconditional love thing of the family unit, that it doesn't just have to be for the person that I'm partnered with. Like, I want to be in all your stuff. I want your kids to go, hey, I haven't heard from Scott a couple days. Where has he been? Or, hey, I want to go to Scott's whatever. And I want to show up when they do things. I want to be part of that. I want them to look at me as being additive.
Yeah.
But I think that's difficult because not everybody can actually pitch that back to their kids.
Right.
And I think especially for moms, where when there's a divorce, kids tend to want to just go and they want to just sink into that big, huge, comfy chair. Yeah. And they're worried that someone, like you said, is going to take time away. Mm-hmm. And how can you teach them that? Can they go through something where they see that, in your case, a man that is going to add to it and make them feel good?
Right.
And that,
Yeah. Well, and going back to your point about affection and things like that, for the last how many years of our marriage, there wasn't any of that. And I thought, like, whoa, I don't want my kids to see this where we're just roommates and we're just, two people passing in the night and just like, tag you're it. And I want to be able to model what a healthy connection looks like. And they're not seeing that here. And I don't want that to be their example.
Yeah. And I think this is where I get concerned when people get divorced or they come out of a relationship, like, I'm going to heal myself for the next 4 years. And it's like, okay. Well, first of all, that you don't need that. Second, you get to a certain point, the other person can help heal you. And also you have to remember your kids are going to see you as just being a single person. Yeah. And kids grow up fast.
Yeah, they do.
Right. And once they hit that 9, 10, 11, they're starting to understand what a relationship is. They're starting to think in their head, like maybe they might have a question, why did you get divorced? They might start wondering when they go to their friend's house and their friend's mom or dad got remarried, or they're going to parties and seeing boyfriends or girlfriends of, and then they're going, wait, why is my mom not doing this?
Yeah.
And then they start thinking, oh, and especially if it's a girl, maybe this is what it is. We just can be independent. We don't need a man. We don't need a partner. We can function on our own. Well, there's truth to that, but is that what you want life to be? We're meant to be connected.
Right.
So don't isolate yourself. Yeah. When people say that that's healthy, it's not healthy. You're just scared and you haven't figured out how to navigate it. Yeah. You just got to go figure out, do the work. So you're open to let that person in, another person. You can take your year or whatever it is to kind of get through it. But if you encounter somebody that you genuinely are interested in, you're like, gosh, this person seems cool. Like, I'd be interested. You can't be slamming doors because I got to take care of my kids and all those things. And I think that's where people get stuck.
Well, and to your point, how do we know that person wasn't directly sent to you to help accelerate your healing?
Correct.
When you slam the door and God and the universe are like, no,
you got to try.
Well, and that's this last relationship that I was in. That was an accelerated path on my healing. And I needed that because I feel like I had done what I could do on my own. Yeah. I knew how to regulate on my own. I knew how to not abandon myself when I was on my own, but throw someone else into the mix. And I went right back to old habits and old patterns of self-sabotage and self-abandonment. It was like, whoa, people pleasing. So I needed that big old slap in the face. I wasn't joking when I said it felt like I went on the spiritual boot camp and I came back like, because it was intense. Yeah. But I needed all of that. And if I wouldn't ever allowed that person into my life, I would have missed that. So I am not the same person I was 5 months ago. And I'm so grateful for that person, for that experience, and that he was the perfect person to come in that chapter of my life. And I'm hoping that I was for him too, to accelerate. Because I think we both got to a certain point where if we would have just stayed there and stayed safe, you wouldn't have had that next, like, boom, we both needed to shove out the door to this next level of our healing. And that's what happened.
Yeah, the growth you have being in a relationship and having to compromise, having to go through falling in love, having to go through just the process of thinking like, what is the next part of my life? Is this person someone who I could marry? Do I want to be married? How do they treat my kids? Do my kids like them? But also understanding that person's not perfect, right?
Right.
And, I think people, as they start getting scared, start finding all the things that aren't working. Mm-hmm. That's the sabotage part, right? Yeah. And instead of just going, well, wait a minute, 80% of this is good, the other 20%. And I'm probably have 20 or 30% that they don't like.
Right. Yeah.
And so then what are we talking about? And then thinking about, well, when I got married, was it perfect? And was it married when I was perfect? No.
Right.
Why are we trying to be perfect? It's okay to screw up. It's okay to love and loss. And it's okay to go through those things.
Yeah.
Not doing that slows down your growth.
Right.
It really does.
But it requires a level of commitment to truly look at yourself. Because there's this quote that you can only, how is it? Like meet people at the depth that you're willing to go yourself or something. There, it sounds way better. I totally butchered that. But you know what I mean? Like people can only meet you with how willing they are to look at their own stuff. And at some point, I think that's probably where you encounter is I'm ready to swim out in these deep waters, but they won't come any further than just putting their feet in the water.
Yeah.
And like, I'm ready to swim.
I'm ready to swim. Yeah.
And it's just trying to find the people that are ready to swim with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
sometimes
think
it gets scary. Sometimes you might go underwater and be like, oh shit, I just uncovered this like other shadow part of me, but come back up and tread water with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you can drift. And I think the other thing that's important is you can be in love and drift away and come back. You're not always on that same raft.
Yeah.
And part of the beauty of going through challenges in life is drifting away and then grabbing that person and pulling them back. And each time you pull them back or you go through a significant life event, it should be building a connection.
Yeah.
Rather than going, well, you know, Scott did this and then we got in a fight and then I feel like we weren't on the same page. Instead of focusing on that, focusing on how did we reconnect? How do we get to the point where we sat down and said, this is dumb. Like, what are we talking? What are we doing here? I love you and you love me. Why are we fighting about stupid shit? Why are we fighting about those things? Right? And let's just make a commitment that we're just going to get through this and work through it. And yeah, you're scared. Of course I'm scared too. You think I don't worry about it every day? I look at, oh, how old am I? How old is she? How old is what my kids are going? What's going to happen? I'm thinking that. Right. But what does it have to do with you and I? It has nothing to do with it. Right. Even if we're at different phases of our lives, my kids are younger and your son's out. Like, what does it have to do with it? Nothing, until I say to you, well, I don't like the fact that your kids are young and I wish. Who's going to say that when you're in love with somebody? You're going to find a way to make it work. Right. And if you can't do that and you're always constantly trying to like solve a problem that's not there. Right. You're just going to keep moving on to the next relationship, the next relationship, the next relationship. And every time you're pointing a finger at what the other person did.
Oh, I feel like my listeners are like, I already know what she's going to say. You keep getting the test until you learn the lesson.
Yeah. Well, and it's unfortunate because I think, do you screw up and miss something that a year later, you know, I have had times when I've went back and dated somebody a second time and people are critical of me and they're like, why would you do that? And I said, well, 2 years ago, that person was over there. And the reason why we broke up is not the same as here. They're like, well, no, relationships end and chapters close. And I'm like, you can think that way, but I don't think that way.
Right.
Who, like,
isn't that funny? Like, where is that?
Why are you
those set of rules? I didn't get that one.
This whole chapters and all these things talking about why windows are closing and I need to move on and I can never go back. I'm going, why? Why would you put yourself in that small box?
Right. Connection's a connection. And if I need to explore that again, because maybe there's still a lesson there. Maybe there's something more I need to learn. I think of things in terms of soul contract. And if the contract is still open and running and there's energy in it.
Why wouldn't you explore it?
Why wouldn't you explore that?
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I think it's people protecting themselves.
Oh, 100%.
I think when they say, I need to move on to the next chapter, or this was I'm going, yeah, that's your brain protecting you.
Yeah.
Because people who are open and understand life and understand that it's not linear.
No.
It's just wiring, winding. And where I was here and you might meet me 5 years later and all of a sudden you look at me and you're like, oh my gosh, I kind of like Scott, right? Or, oh, I see Scott as this different person that I didn't see 5 years ago. And I might feel the same way. And to just close the door on friendships and business relationships and romantic relationships because something happened in the past.
Right.
Unless someone did something terrible.
Are we supposed to be evolving? Isn't the whole point?
But I think that's the growth. It's the growth mindset.
Yep.
There are people that have a growth mindset in their job and everything they do, but not in their personal life because they think it's just supposed to be easy.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Who?
Yeah.
There's nothing easy. I look on every step of my life of all the great things I achieved and how many times I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
And I was this close to quit and crying and just like furious. And then something happened and I kept going and then it worked out.
Yep.
It worked out because I just stayed in it.
Yeah.
Because I believed in my heart I was going to achieve this and this is what I wanted to do. And I'm not going to give up no matter what anybody says. No matter how many people tell me I can't do it and I'm not ready for it and I'm not supposed to do it. That just would embolden me.
Yeah.
And I'd go, you know what? I'm going to prove them wrong.
Ooh.
I'm going to prove them wrong. And almost every single time it worked out.
Yep. I talked about that. I don't know if it was on last week's podcast, but I have some friends from my gym that they know that every time they say, you can't do that, I'm like, watch me.
Yeah, watch me.
Yeah. And I've learned to do that in a healthy way where I'm not injuring myself or to the point. But you're right. There's something about, oh, you think it can't be done this way? Watch me. You know, and same thing with my career and what I'm doing. Like, I know what I'm doing looks so off to people. Who does she think she is? And what is she? Again, these are all my stories.
Yeah. I don't see that, but they're right.
But there are certain people that do.
That. Yeah, I see that as that's magical. Like, keep rolling.
But I have people when I stopped working at the hospital I was at and that very, 8 to 4 career, Monday through Friday, people looked at me different. It's like I lost credibility as a dietitian when I was out doing my own thing. And then now being an entrepreneur, now I'm just annoying because I had to put stuff on social media all the time. Like, yeah, but I have to market myself. Like, this is the hardest part of my freaking job is putting myself out there. And people understood that. But it's a very interesting dynamic. Yeah, mine was similar when I walked away from my job. I remember the first Middleton Chamber event, when you sit around the chair and everyone's telling their story and what they do. And I was like, dang it, I got a couple options here. What do I say? And I just was like, I'm just going to say what it was. And I'm going to tell them why I quit. And I said, I got burned out. I walked away from a job with a pension that made a boatload of money. And I just quit cold turkey. And a couple people just looked at me and just shook my head. And they're like, why would you do that? And I could see the people who were like, oh, that's really cool. I want to be that person. And they didn't say anything. And then after, they were the moths. Yeah. And then after they came out and said, hey, I think that story you shared with me was great. And I think that took a lot of courage for you to do. Yeah. At your age. And then you were still rolling. And the fact that you don't know exactly what you're going to do, but you trust. That's why. But you trust that you're going to figure it out, right? And you're the same way. I trust in myself. Yep. And you want to know what? I don't want people telling me who I'm supposed to love, how I'm going to love, and me making mistakes and if you're going to be critical of me, you're not my person. Yeah. Right? And I'm willing to make mistakes and I'm here for it. Like, give me all the failures because that's just going to get me closer to the thing that works. And that's what people don't understand. To the person. Yeah. That's what people don't understand. Like, we're not afraid of that. Yeah, no, I'm not afraid of failing. I'm afraid of not trying. Yeah. That scares the crap out of me when I'm not trying. When I'm in that state where I'm fearful to actually try, that's when I'm not good. That's when Scott is not good. When he's trying and not worrying about it and doing videos, like, people are like, oh my God, like you do these. And I'm like, you have no idea how many takes it took when I started doing that. Yeah. And then now I just do it and I don't even review it because I'm scared that I'd be critical of myself if I looked at it. Right. So I just post it. Yep. Just done. Yep. But it's a one-shot take and there is no because you're just channeling. I'm just authentically me. I'm going to trust whatever comes out. But the more I think about it, the more I get my head. That's the same with a podcast. Yeah. That's why he showed up with zero outline of what we're going to talk about today. Like, we can have a general idea, but that's the whole concept of this podcast. Because as soon as I start scripting it, and that's why it's called unscripted, right? That's why it's called unscripted, because several times I've tried that and it just shuts me down immediately. I cannot create a clear and there's a million podcasts that do that. Yeah. There's a million where people sit there and go, hey, and they bring someone on who wrote a book. Yeah. And they step through it and it's totally controlled and they cut it and all that stuff is scripted. Yeah. And that's great. I can read that book. Yeah. I don't need the person to tell me what's in their book. Yeah. I want to find out why they wrote the book. Yeah. And I want to find out when they wrote the book, what happened. And I want to know why they're scared. I want to know what their next adventure is. And I want to know if they're a regular human. Yeah. Because when you open that book up and people see that all these really successful people, they're no different than you or I or the people who are listening to this podcast. Yep. They just chose to try something even when they were scared. Yeah. Like, people are like, oh man, you're fearless, God. I go, no, I'm scared to death. Yeah. I am scared. Any idea how freaking terrifying it is over here? You know? Shit. And the other night I was driving my car and I heard a song that reminded me about somebody and I was just fighting back the tears. And I just kept playing that damn song over and over again because I had so much emotion in my body. And I'm like, I got to get this out. Yeah. Like, this has to come out of me. And like, that was what was great with yoga too. Like, I would sit there and just be crying and just like, luckily it's hot yoga, so I'm sweating and people can't tell I'm crying. But the teachers would come and say, it's okay, and tap my back, right? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to actually cry on video. I'm going to do a video and I'm going to let all that emotion come out and store it. And I want people to see what it feels like and how I'm getting there. And then that's when people start going, oh my gosh, Scott, you're cool. Oh my God, can we talk? Right? It was when I would just let the emotion pour out. Is this like the male version of yeah, look, it's the blue. Like, it's like we're actually in the same room. We're not in different locations.
Yeah. And I felt that from you when I saw that. And I was like, and that's why I was super persistent, even though you might have thought I was a stalker. I was like, I'm just going to go. Eventually one day she's going to go, yeah, fine, we can meet her. You won't cancel the coffee. And I know you weren't canceling those things because you wanted to, but you were busy and you were going through life and you were going through a really tough time. And you were
now I know I could have told you everything that I was going through, but before I was like, well, I can't.
And there could have been some fear where you're like, oh gosh, I hope this guy doesn't ask me about this. Right.
I'm a pretty open book.
And so, yeah, we just go through those different things. And I think that's great. And then us having connected other people that I know, and then you're like, oh my God, I know her. And then that person's texting you a picture of me with that person. And I'm going, wait,
She's
you know
on the
Tami?
podcast.
Yeah, right. You know Tami? I know Tami. She's like, oh my gosh, so do I. And then just that synergy of all those people and I'm sure it's just going to keep growing and growing and compressing. And it's going to go from 10 people to 100 to 1,000, where it's literally like, you're going to sit down somewhere and start talking. They're going, I know Scott. And you're going to tell your story. And then when I'm talking about that, and they're going to go, like when we were at your opening.
Yeah.
And my good friend was your neighbor. Yeah. And she's like, oh, Tammy's probably been over. Yeah. You probably were over at parties when you were married when Tami was there. And I'm going, what are the chances? Right.
Yeah. Right. And then never even noticed each other.
No. Yeah. And then that's the observing part of not seeing people and having them walk by and because you're just doing your thing. You're trying to stay afloat.
Right. It's interesting when you're talking about the way that you show up. And I think that's probably what we relate the most, is that we're going to show the stuff, the in-between, the hard stuff, the fear, but this is what it looks like to be emotional, instead of here's where I was before, this is my story, and now I'm this awesome, successful version, the spiritual leader, whatever. Like, no, we're showing you this. Yeah. Like, we are showing you what it looks like to be in the freaking chrysalis.
Yeah. And it isn't easy.
It is not easy. No. And I feel like we're both out the other side. We're
starting to get our butterfly wings ready to fly. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've met some people that I thought were really at the moment, and I made a strong connection where we were like cruising, and then all of a sudden something happened and they got scared and just went, this is too hard for me to have these conversations with you. I'm not ready. I'm going to go through these things and maybe in a couple months. But we were just talking like you and I, and then something triggered. Either I said something to them, or we got to the point where we had a real tough discussion that they just got scared. Yeah. And I think there's value in sharing it and hoping that person will get to that point.
Yeah. And I think that's what our purpose is. I can lead you this far. I can show you what's possible. And I remember having this conversation with my ex, was like, I don't have a choice. I don't feel like I am in control of this journey. I am apparently being guided. I'm supposed to go through this awakening. I'm already on this other side. There is no going back. I can never go back to this 9 to 5. I can never go back to this normal way. I just couldn't. I can't. Right. It's not in me.
Me too.
And I'm like, but you have a choice. I brought you this far. Some people, maybe in their soul contract or wherever they're at in their reincarnations, I don't know, have a choice. Are you going to jump over and go through this and ask those hard questions and look at yourself in the mirror and do this work? They have a choice. Or you can go back to 3D life and going through the motions. Yeah. And if that's what you want, okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
But I didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you got hit by a car.
Yeah. And what is interesting is if you watch the movie Castaway, so the final scene when he's back and he's at pulls up and he delivers that, and it's got the little wings on it. Yeah. And he's standing at that intersection in the middle of nowhere. I had not watched the movie far enough to see the final scene because I would get part of the empath energy. I was getting so frustrated he couldn't get off the damn island. I'm going, he's going to die on that island. I can't watch this. And I would just turn it off. I just never got to that final scene where he actually goes and meets his ex-girlfriend, and then she runs down and gets in the car. And he's like, you have to go home, don't you? But she wanted to stay, right? And so that whole swing of that last 22 minutes or 27 minutes of the movie, and then he's standing there at that intersection. I couldn't stop crying.
Oh.
I couldn't stop crying watching that. And that was about 7 months ago, and even shortly after I quit my job. And I was like, I felt like that. Like I got the map on the car and I'm like, shit, I don't know which way to go. And the woman pulls up and says, hey, where are you going, cowboy, or whatever. And then she leaves and he has the little wings. What do you think he did? Do you think he went after her, or do you think he just went the other way? And so I think about that and I go, I think he went after the wings, but they never show it to you, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But I felt like I was at those crossroads and I had to go one way and I didn't know which way to go.
Yeah. And knowing that whatever path you take, you might end up leaving people behind. And that's real hard. It's real hard.
And it's 4 ways, and I might make a mistake, and like, can I undo it? I do believe you can undo every mistake you've made in your life to a certain extent. There's times when you have to let things go, or you have to fix the mistakes you made. I try and fix 99% of the mistakes I made. Some people don't want me to fix the mistake, and then I check it off as I tried and move on down the road. But I really, truly believe if you feel like you need to say something to somebody, you have to say it.
Yeah.
You either call them, you text them. If they don't listen to you, you send them a letter.
Right.
And then once you do that, you're free of it.
Right.
Because if you don't say something and something happens to that person, like I couldn't live with that at all.
Yep.
And I would like to think that if when I leave this earth, everybody will have told me what they want to tell me.
Yeah.
I hope.
Right.
And that I'm not leaving them hanging out on a string. Like that day when I got hit by the car, I had so many loose ends.
Yeah.
I had so many loose ends. And I thought, gosh, if I would have died that day, what would have happened?
Right.
How many people would have said, damn it, I wish Scott and I had reconciled, or I wish we had had a conversation. And so I've went to reach out in the past 6 months to every single person that, whether it's a relationship, friendship, business deal, and just said, hey, I want to fix this.
Wow.
And I would say 50% of them just said, I can't do it, which is sad and doesn't make any sense. And I hope that someday they will read the message I sent them or reread the letter and they'll go, okay, I'm ready. Yeah. And then I'll get that text. I'm ready to talk.
Yeah. But that's the way that you can bless and release. And like you said, I can send this, but I need to be removed from any expectation of a response.
Yeah.
And I've done that many times. It's like, you know what? This is going to bring me peace to say this. And there have been times where I'm like, yeah, I need it. And then all of a sudden it'll fade. I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't. But there are other times like, no, I want to say this for my own peace. And I want this person to know these things and that they meant something and that this was significant.
Absolutely.
And again, whatever they want to do with it is totally up to them. But if I'm feeling called to, and I've removed that this is a form of ego, and that's what I had to address with this last relationship ending, was me wanting to reach out. Was it to avoid that really deep, like, abandonment wound of, can I just like keep this little connection? Can I? And it wasn't about that. And I was like, no, it's not. Once I got really clear, because I'm like, is it not? Is it not?
So where did you get to?
I got to a place where I was like, no, genuinely want to send this message.
That person to know how I feel about them. Yeah.
And
I think that's great. And I have assumed that everybody would want to do that.
Right. And they don't.
And so that's me going to therapy every week. Like, people are like, why do you go to therapy? And I say, because I have to talk through understanding why other people don't function the same way as me. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around it and going like, am I an outlier? I like misunderstanding. Am I functioning in a space that's causing grief for other people? That's where I worry about the most. Am I doing something wrong? And I think that just comes back to the people like yourself and talking to other people. No, just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And if those people can't accept it, then that's really on them. You don't need everybody to like you, right? You don't need everybody to love you. You just need to be yourself, and you need to just be this bright ball of love and light, and all the good people are going to come. It's hard to accept that when you want to reconcile with somebody, or you want to help somebody and understand that they just don't want your help and they don't want to talk to you. Right. It's hard when you genuinely are thinking, I want to help this person. So just taking that step back and go, I'm just going to glow. I'm going to build a butterfly garden and keep walking, and someone's going to land in that garden. Yeah. Or they might land and take off, or it might be 100 people, or like my friend who reached out and said, I just want to talk to you about I'm stuck, right? Yeah. Those are the moments that get me super excited and make me realize that I'm actually on the path that I'm supposed to be on.
Yeah. Well, and with this being an inner child podcast, like everything you just said, like that's exactly what your inner child wants and needs. It doesn't need that validation from other people. Do you feel secure in who you are? Do you unconditionally love yourself? Mm-hmm. Because if that's the case, it doesn't need that from other people. And that allows you to go through that process of bless and release. I came into your life for this reason, to hopefully show you these things. What you do with it is up to you. But I'm not going to abandon me to try to help you. Yeah. And when you're ready to receive that, I'll always be here. I'm arms wide open, sit down. But until you're ready, I can't abandon myself anymore. And so it's like when you are authentically just who you are and shining that light, like that is your inner child just,
Yeah. And I struggle with not loving myself and being super critical. And I've been hypercritical of myself my entire life. And even to the point when people would give me compliments, whether it was about my appearance or who I was, I couldn't accept it. I just was like, I don't know if this is real. I think this person loves me, so they're saying it to make me feel good, but is it hard? And sifting through that and like hard for me. And I still have those times where someone will give me a compliment. And I'm just kind of like, I don't think that's real. Like they're just saying that to me. Right?
Right. But if you gave someone a compliment,
Yeah.
you would genuinely want them to receive it.
Correct.
But like, well, why can't I do
Correct.
that then?
Correct. I think it's just, it goes back to that. And my mom's going to listen to this. I love you, Mom. You always made me safe. I am a reflection of you and how you raised me. And so none of the inability to love myself came from any of the way I was raised. It just came from being a competitive person and being a smaller kid that people always made fun of, and being skinny, opposite of yours. Skinny kids get picked on the same. When they call you Ethiopian every day till you're like 19 years old, right? You start believing it. And so that inability to love myself and looking at myself in the mirror every day, taking my shirt off and going, oh my gosh, do I still look good? And wondering, and like the working out, like, am I going to look better tomorrow? Right. And just not being able to love myself caused me grief and caused the inability for me to receive love 100%, even though I was in a loving relationship. But I would just always question, like, gosh, does this person actually really love me? Like, I think they do.
Right.
And then
there's always going to be that wall, that barrier to keep you safe. Like, I'm not going to fully allow them in, because then that would hurt too much.
Yeah. And so I think just me now working through that and trying to get to the point where it's like, yes, you're a good person. Yes, you are this and that, and just stop second guessing that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people probably have that same feeling. I don't think I'm an outlier.
No,
right? I'm not an outlier. That's not a Scott problem. And that's not something that like diagnosed in therapy, but I think it's just a conversation of like, all right, Scott, you got to decide and stop making excuses for people that don't treat you right. And just like when they show you who they are, that's who they are. You need to accept it. It has nothing to do with your appearance, your body, how much money you have, what your house is, and what car you drive. It has nothing to do with that.
Right. That's all the things ego wants you to focus on, because God forbid it was something deeper. Like they just didn't like who I was, when really, like, no, this is something within them.
Correct.
This has nothing to do with you.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that's a big step for me in the next year. Just let it go, that I didn't have to do something wrong, or I didn't have to not be good enough for them to move on or end a relationship, or say I wasn't good enough. Some of that is on them. It's at least 50%.
Yeah.
And so in that scenario, that's really what I think can propel people to move forward, that it's not always your fault. Right. You can be self-reflective and look at the things that you did wrong in a relationship, but you have to understand that there are also things that other person did wrong.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't worry about all the tiny little stuff. Yeah. So to me, it's oblivious, but that other person might be thinking all these things I'm doing are stacking, that they're like, oh my gosh, he might not love me because of my appearance, or whatever, accepting that. And I think if I could just teach those people to say back to that other person, hey, I just need you to know these are the things that you don't have to own, is just super freeing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think when you can even start to see the other person, the inner child, like, oh, maybe these things are triggering for them, or I'm a mirror to them. How could this be tripping their ego? And having those conversations is huge. And we've talked about attachment style in that other podcast.
Yeah, right. For
love
sure.
languages, like all of these things are so fascinating when
Yes.
you can openly and honestly have those conversations. But something that you said, and maybe we can kind of wrap up on this, is that I think for you and I as empaths, and all of you listening that resonate with this as well, is we have this amazing ability to have unconditional love for people no matter what. And now for me, like, I see their inner child and I can see their ego, and I can be like, oh, I can see how your ego is trying to protect your inner child. And I understand that, and I can love you through that. And I also don't have to be a part of this pattern anymore.
Right.
And that is now for you
to
work on.
Yep.
But it's not mine to unpack and heal.
Yeah. And I think those times when that person, our type of personality type, is telling you about things about your life and trying to give you tips or slightly guide you, we're not being critical of you and saying you're not a good person. We're not saying that we don't love you. We're saying that you have some areas that you need to get better. And I, in turn, want you to tell me that. I want you to say to me, Scott, you're doing these things and I would really like you to do something different. And if I'm saying that back to you, it means that I care about you. It doesn't mean that I dislike you or I'm trying to knock you down. That's not the goal.
Right.
The goal is like, I see so much in you,
right.
and you're like just at the edge, and I just want to tap you and push you and have you go down that.
Right.
But if you're not ready, I'm learning now, I can't help that.
I did a video once.
It's so hard.
Going back to this whole caterpillar butterfly thing. Like, if the caterpillar knew what was going to happen, it'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm not going in there.
Right.
You and I, we were the caterpillars that just knew there was something more. There's something more. I'm just going to go through this journey. I'm going to trust this journey.
Yeah.
But I think there are caterpillars that get up to that stage and they're like, no. I'm
I like being a caterpillar.
Yeah, I'd rather
I don't want to be a butterfly.
I ain't going through that shit.
I'm cool because I don't know what it feels like to be.
I don't want to dissolve into goo.
It's kind of dark. Yeah, it's like milky and all these weird things happen, and then I come out and I'm wet and I have to learn how to fly when really I like to just crawl. Yeah. And Scott, I just want to crawl. I don't want to be a butterfly.
Right. And I think of that like maybe that's their soul's journey in this lifetime, and I have to be at peace with that. And I think that has given me peace for those people that I really, really wanted to heal, and I really wanted that deeper connection. I was like, maybe that's not part of their soul's journey in this lifetime.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's, for me, that's a hard, sad thing to accept, but I have to.
But if you believe that they'll have another opportunity in another lifetime, like, you want that for them now, but
yeah.
But when you see that, even holding that hope, that is also energy that you are now like giving yourself, causing a drain for you.
Well, and quite honestly, it might be selfish because if I love that person, I want to see them hit where I think they can be, and I want to be part of that. And especially if I'm in a relationship with them, I'm like, I don't want this to end.
I feel like we need a part 2 to this podcast.
I don't want this to end.
Something.
Yeah, I don't want this ride to end, and so I think maybe it is selfish and I just want to be part of it. And that's what the part is that's hard to let it go.
Yeah.
Ooh. I am a crier, people. Sorry.
No, we don't apologize for crying on here. That is a job well done when you can cry openly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's powerful though.
So
and I can resonate with that.
Yeah.
When you see someone and you want that for them so bad because you know the potential, you can see it. And I think we are like seers. You can see right into someone's soul and you're like,
it's almost like it's clairvoyance. Like there's I see the 5 steps. Like it's clear to me. It's a movie that's playing. I'm watching them be that thing and it's just running and I see them. And if I love them and I watch them struggle, I'm like, this is what would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I can't give them that gift.
Right. I think what we're doing is throwing the life raft.
Yeah.
And it's up for them to grab hold. And
no, you're right. I like the life raft. I like that reference because I think that that's true. Right. It's true. And if you're listening and you're the type of person who's like going, I'm not ready to move on and I'm struggling and I would like to get where they are. I think when you approach people like other empaths or people like Tami who does this as a profession, I don't do this as a profession. I just talk about it. So having someone help you, there's value in that. And it doesn't happen overnight.
It's kind of like we're like soul guides or like something. Like, let me just guide you through this.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my father-in-law, before he ended up ending his life back in 2017, but a few years before that, he bought me a headlamp. And I was like, he knew I was going to need this to light the way through these dark nights, not just for myself, but for other people. Because he was a huge catalyst to my spiritual awakening, I guess. And so we're meant to light that path for people. It's up to them if they want to follow.
And it's interesting coming from someone who then, like you said, took their life or made a decision that they were no longer productive on this earth, but that had made an impact for you and gave you something that helped you go to the next level, but couldn't do that for themselves.
Yep.
Is hard.
And that was something that actually I feel like we need like a whole other.
We can have part 2. This is part 1, by the way.
We'll do a part 2 sometime. But what I will say is I had gone to a medium because again, at that time I didn't know. I needed some answers. I didn't know what was happening. And I had coffee with a friend who said she had gone to a medium after her husband passed. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I'll never forget when she told me, one, that I was a lighthouse. I'm like, what the hell is that? Or a light worker or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that makes sense. As a dietitian, I help people. Well,
she was seeing you in a different.
Yeah. But she had said, she's like, don't take this the wrong way. She's like, but you had a soul contract with him. And that the way he left was what was going to be a part of your awakening. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I think about that. I mean, he was that for so many people, but how many didn't see it as a gift, didn't see it as an opportunity to really like, what is life and what am I here for? And that bigger purpose and calling. But
yeah, I mean, we're in a race to acquire things, especially in this country. And people are acquiring large houses, cars, clothes. I mean, I like clothes too. Like we look good. We dress right. And so I'm not going to rip on that. But
the cheapest things, but I like them look nice.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think I fell into that pursuit too in various times and took jobs that probably I shouldn't have taken because it paid more money and like It's a story that I think everybody is running through. I look at here just like around and watch people walking like zombies. And I talk about yoga, the touch and go. People come flying in, they do the yoga and they leave and they miss the actual community piece of it. Like I get they want to do the workout, but I can see they're just on remote control. Maybe they're coming there because they're trying to go through that and that the motion is, and then they're going to have a breakthrough. But just we're in this race. We're in this race to do that. And that's not what life is about. It's about connecting with people. And creating community and helping each other and having kids and getting married and remarried and all those different things. Those are the only moments that matter. At the end of our life, when you look back, no one cares what my job title was. They don't care that I was a Division I track and field and cross country athlete. They're going to care how I made them feel. Yeah. And so at my funeral, it's going to be the people that are like, there was a moment where Scott made me feel special. That's what's going to make them drive. That's going to make them show up, right? Yeah. It's the end of Big Fish. Did you ever see that movie?
No.
Got to watch that. And in the end, the guy tells these stories about all this stuff and his son doesn't believe it. And at the funeral, all the people that he told the stories about that were ridiculous and were crazy, they all showed up.
Oh.
And it was just amazing because I didn't expect the end of it. I don't want to like ruin it for anybody, but it's a great movie. It's called Big Fish.
All right.
And it's just about life and how his son perceived him as being this absent father and a bullshit story person. But in the end, everything they did, and then he had impact and he helped all those people in the story. Yeah, it was great. Totally great. It's one of those ones where YouTube, where you come home, maybe you had a couple drinks at the bar and you're like, I feel a little emotional. Boom, I just type Big Fish ending and then I just cry and eat some chips and a pizza and then go to bed, right?
Great date night with myself.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
It is. And it ends great because you get to cry a little bit. There's some emotion. You watch it and then you go to bed. So it's one of my best ones. Just do Big Fish movie ending if you don't want to watch a movie, but if you want to watch it, it's a great movie. One of my top 5s.
All right. I want to watch it this weekend.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. How should we wrap this up? What do you want to leave people with?
We just really talked about what is an empath. I think people need to just understand that when you're having emotions, if you're going through depression or anxiety, just take a little bit of a dip and see what's really yours and what you need to own, what you don't, and the other energy you're getting. And just life isn't about being by yourself. It's about finding your partner and your person or whatever that looks like for you. And you just got to keep working and just keep going no matter how many times you fall down and get back up. And that unconditional love piece of it, be ready to receive it.
Yeah.
Be ready to receive it. If you're working on something, work on the ability to receive love from another human and just say, I'm going to be vulnerable and that's my goal. It's not going to happen overnight, right? And when you meet other people, it's easier and faster. And if you're in a relationship where you don't feel like you can do that, that's probably your biggest red flag. The other stuff you can fix. Yeah. All those other things you can. But if you feel like you can't be your genuine self and tell somebody how you feel and you're worried about being judged, that's probably where you're in the wrong. Yeah. The rest of the stuff is all fixable. Yeah. So.
Woo.
That's my opinion.
That's good stuff.
World according
right
to Scott.
Yeah, world according to Scott. I like that. That could be another podcast.
Yeah, it could be.
From
right.
The Assist, which is
podcast. Yep.
Your other podcast.
Yep. Yeah. Myself and Charlie Wills, who played basketball at Wisconsin and started out as a mental health podcast in athletics. And it quickly changed as I encountered people like yourself. And it's just also another great listen with people that have either shared their stories or are therapists. And I mean, believe it or not, therapists have a lot of trouble too.
Yeah.
And they have difficult marriages and those other things too. So just having that, they're real people. So follow that. And I hope that's kind of something where we're on episode 7. And what are you on?
I think this is 77.
77. So I got a while to get to the point where Tami's at, but I think that's, you know, it's a good thing to chase.
Yes. Well, and I love that there's a platform for messages like this. And because believe it or not, people do actually want to talk about it.
They do.
And we are just hopefully creating a safe space for that. Yeah.
And you can connect to me on Instagram at Scott Brennan, or you can go to the Assist podcast, send if you're someone who wants to come on my podcast or you want to just have conversations about this. I mean, we're in Madison and I'm always up for a cup of coffee. But if you're not,
give them the right exact location.
Yeah, right. But if you just are like, hey, I don't live in Madison, but I'd like to send you a message, or could we do a phone call, or could we do a video call? Like, I'm always interested in that.
Trust
I will
that
make time
intuition
for that.
And that if there's something that he's saying that's resonating, kind of like he did to me, like I need to reach out to her for some reason.
Yeah.
Like you may have a soul contract with this guy where he's supposed to show you something within you. And so follow that intuition, follow that nudge to send that message, to reach out and see what comes of it.
And you have nothing to lose because I'm not going to judge you. And if you it's a one-time conversation and that's it, or we become friends, or we just become cohorts or whatever, or you're starting a business and you want to like partner and figure out ways to help people, you never know who you're going to talk to. You never know. And so just explore. Be curious.
Right. Be curious of why this person's in my life, why I pressed play on this podcast, and why
Right.
his message is resonating with me, because those are those breadcrumbs. Those are the signs and the things that universe is like, yo, wake up, follow those, listen, send the message.
Yeah. And it's okay to be scared. That's fine. Just still do it anyways. It's okay to be scared.
Perfectly imperfect over here.
Correct.
Just showing up in the mess. In the muck.
Yes.
And crying our way through it.
Yes. Yeah.
On video.
It's okay to cry too, even as a man. So people won't actually judge you, even though you think they will.
Right. It gives them permission.
It gives them permission. Correct.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I cannot wait for part 2. We will have you back on because I felt like there was a lot of things we could have dove into more. But I will link the podcast that I was on with you guys because there were so many great stories on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
there will be a part 2 to that one too.
Check out the other episodes on there because you guys have done some good work over there already.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, awesome.
On that note, we will see you all next week. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Do something kind for your inner child.